Heard recently on another podcast, they were talking about escape rooms in a box, those type of games, which we'll definitely be talking about in the future episode, as I said. But one of the hosts was expressing that he had found escape games kind of silly. And basically to him he said he never got why these puzzles would be there. Why would, say, an eccentric millionaire put a bunch of puzzles in his house to allow you to escape?
Because he's eccentric.
Yeah. Well, but he didn't feel that the narrative of the room made sense. And I think that's a valid criticism of escape rooms. That, sometimes it is kind of, why would they put this here and why am I even here in the first place? Though I think, with these kind of games, there is a level of suspension of disbelief.
Of course.
But what I would say to that criticism is, one, it sounds like he hasn't played very many good escape rooms. Because a good escape room will always have a story. Well,
yeah, like I said, it's all about the actual theming of how it gets put in. Like you mentioned with that Pandora's one, we're in the alien space station. Mm-hmm. The story was good too. If I remember, the story was we had to find a biological sample on this research station or whatever it was.
That was abandoned or something.
Or something like that. So we're essentially treasure hunting on this space station.
We're almost like scavengers on...
Yeah, that's the word, scavenger.
We're like scavengers on this broken down space station. So, it does make sense that we wouldn't really know how to get into things and things would be locked. And
I forget the reason why we had an hour, but it's something like there's only an hour's worth of oxygen left or something like that. It wasn't just you have to escape in this amount of time. It's like, no, you only have an hour to do what you need to do and then get out. Otherwise, so you're not locked in there. It's just you have an hour to get out before you don't have any more time.
Yeah.
Or there's even the Krampus one where it was you're not locked in the room. It's you have an hour before he comes back.
Yeah, because essentially what you're doing is you're trying to find out the identity or find out something about this Krampus character.
Yeah.
Also, there's been a lot of times where I would say we'll be in a room and I'll completely forget what the story of the room is and still have a great time because I get so caught up in the challenge of it. So I think if someone is really criticizing that aspect too much, that for them, maybe escape rooms just aren't their thing.
Yeah.
To me, just the challenge of trying to solve those puzzles can be enough. You know? But I do think a good escape room will have a good story that will make sense as to why you are there and why you are trying to escape.
Yeah, we did an escape room that had a masquerade theme to it. Mm-hmm. And as challenging as the puzzles were, some of them were not good, but other ones were good. The theme did get lost.
Very.
So, that takes some enjoyment out of it. But we still weren't we want our money back because we didn't feel like we were at a masquerade ball.
Yeah, well, yeah. And that one definitely, in that case, not only did the story get lost, but a lot of the puzzles didn't make sense with the story. So that's where that room kind of fell apart.
Yeah.
The other point I would make is a big misconception about escape rooms is that they always involve escaping a room.
Yeah.
And that's just not true.
No. Like we already mentioned with Krampus and Pandora's,
Yeah. You're not trying to escape the room. You are trying to figure out the identity of someone, or in the Tiki room, you're actually trying to stop a volcano.
Yeah, you're trying to find a way to appease Pele, the volcano goddess, before she decides to blow her top, literally.
Yeah.
There was actually one that we also did in Riverside. I forget the name of the top
Riverside,
of my head.
California.
Yeah, Riverside, California. There's a lot of Riversides. You are correct. Where we were Ghostbusters, essentially. We were paranormal investigators, just investigating a shop.
Yeah.
And it's just it's coming on to the witching hour and you only have this long before the spiritual plane fades away. So you have to find the spirits and exorcise the demons before you just run out of time.
Yeah. We did a really fun room too once where we were actually detectives trying to solve a murder.
Yes, that was
fun.
And
the great thing about that room was the goal was not so much to get out, although you did, finally have to get through a final door. But then the host was out there and she would ask you who the murderer was. And if you didn't know, if you couldn't tell her who the murderer was and how they committed the murder, you technically lost, even though you got out of the room.
Or there was one in that same company where we were FBI bomb technicians, and we had an hour to find and defuse a bomb.
Yeah, which is a pretty typical theme.
There was literally a moment at the end where I have 2 wires to cut, and you're like, cut this one. I'm like, but we have time. We should just cut the wire. Okay, if we're wrong, click, and we were right. But we had 5 more minutes, Lord. We could have,
we were running out of time. And we had never at that point ever failed a room, and I was not about to have our first failure. And
but I didn't want to take a 50-50 chance.
It was very clear what color it should be, but Greg had to try to overanalyze it.
To me, it could have gone both ways.
So yeah, I mean, I think, part of that is I just think for this person, they haven't done a good escape room. A good escape room will have a good narrative, and also, like I said, it's not always about escaping necessarily. In fact, we've actually found in some respects that escape room isn't a good term for what it is either.
We need to come up with some new term.
In a way, yeah, because a lot of times when we've been explaining it to people who've never heard of escape rooms, and yes, there are people out there who exist who do not know what an escape room is now, we've had it, they are initially, well, you let someone lock you in a room? Well, are you scared? What if you can't get out? And all these, and we have to kind of no, it's not, it's about trying to solve these puzzles and things. It's not about you're locked in this room,
all these minor phobias start popping up.
Exactly, yeah.
You're like, no, you have a big red button you can push, but then you lose the game. Don't worry about it. It's fine.